The burden of silence. Commander Oriana Vale tugged at her tactical gloves. With barely contained frustration, the morning briefing had been a disaster. Instead of the elite reconnaissance partner she'd requested, Central Command had assigned her a civilian consultant, a cartographer with no combat experience. Now she stood watching him fumble with basic equipment, his slender fingers struggling with the straps of a standard issue field pack. "Commander." Captain Jensen approached, datapad in hand. Theo Mercer's clearance just came through. His geographical expertise should prove valuable in the ravine sector. Oriana scoffed. "I need a soldier who can keep up, not a map maker who'll get us both killed." She studied the man across the hangar, thin, with dust-brown hair falling over anxious eyes. Nothing about him suggested he belonged anywhere near the front lines of humanity's desperate war against the Vrexian Dominion. "Command believes otherwise," Jensen replied, his tone final. "He's specialized in Vrexian architectural patterns. If anyone can guide you through their forward base undetected, it's him." Oriana strode across the hangar, stopping directly before Mercer. Up close, she noticed a faint scar tracing his jawline, and the way his eyes darted, never quite meeting hers. "Mercer, I'm Commander Vale. You've been briefed." He nodded, a subtle tremor in his right hand. "Yes, Commander. I've studied the ravine sector extensively. The Vrexian outpost uses a recurring geometric pattern that—" "Save it," she interrupted. "Can you run, fight, follow orders without hesitation?" His expression faltered. I'm here to navigate, Commander." "That's what I thought." She leaned closer, voice dropping. "You're dead weight on a mission I can't afford to fail. If you slow me down or compromise our position, I'll leave you behind. Is that understood?" Something flickered in his eyes, not fear, but something deeper. For a moment, he seemed to stand straighter, his gaze steadying. "Perfectly, Commander." The dropship journey to the deployment zone was silent. Oriana reviewed tactical data while Mercer sat motionless, eyes closed. Breathing measured, she assumed. He was terrified. When they touched down at the edge of the twisted metal forest remnants of a human settlement, consumed by Vrexian biotech, she expected him to hesitate. Instead, he moved with surprising grace, stepping precisely where the ground was stable. His eyes scanned the horizon with methodical precision. "We should avoid the northern approach," he said quietly. "The signal patterns suggest sentry clusters." Oriana frowned. The briefing indicated northern access was clear. "The briefing is wrong." His voice carried unexpected certainty. "Trust me." "Trust you?" She almost laughed. "You're a cartographer who can barely hold his pack straight. You're useless to me except for your maps." Mercer absorbed the insult without reaction. "As you wish, Commander." He gestured toward a narrow ravine. "This way will take longer but offers 78% better coverage." Against her better judgment, Oriana followed. Hours later, when they discovered the remains of a patrol exactly where the clear northern approach would have taken them, she grudgingly reassessed the burden she'd been assigned. Mercer remained silent, marking coordinates on his device with steady hands that occasionally betrayed that curious tremor, a tremor that seemed less like fear with each passing hour. Whispers of a hidden past night descended over the twisted landscape, forcing Commander Vale and Theo to make camp in the hollow remnants of what once had been a communications tower. The structure's metallic skeleton provided minimal shelter from the biting wind that carried whispers of Vrexian biotech spreading through the valley below. Oriana maintained a vigilant watch while Theo spread his maps across the floor, illuminated by the dim blue glow of his portable light. His fingers traced paths with practiced precision, occasionally making notations in a shorthand she couldn't decipher. "The Vrexian command post should be just beyond this ridge," he said, pointing to a jagged formation. "But there's something odd about their patrol patterns." Oriana knelt beside him. "Explain." "They're concentrating forces here and here," he indicated to seemingly random points, "leaving their western approach vulnerable. It feels deliberate." "A trap," she concluded. Theo nodded. "Most likely. And how would a cartographer recognize military tactics?" The question hung between them, sharp with suspicion. His hands stilled. For a moment, the tremor in his right hand intensified before he clenched it into a fist. "I've studied their movements for 3 years. Patterns become predictable." Oriana didn't press further, but her gaze lingered on that trembling hand. Something about his expertise felt too practical, too honed by experience rather than academic study. They ate in silence, military rations that tasted of chemicals and necessity. When Theo excused himself to scout the immediate perimeter, a task she would normally never entrust to a civilian, Oriana quickly searched his pack. Hidden beneath carefully folded maps and technical equipment was a small, worn case. Inside lay a maintenance kit for a long-range precision weapon, each tool arranged with meticulous care. The kit contained no weapon itself, but the specialized nature of the tools left little doubt about their purpose. She returned everything exactly as she'd found it before Theo returned. "All clear," he reported, "though I'd suggest we move before dawn." The biodrones increased their range at first light. Oriana studied him with new eyes. You've encountered them before. A shadow crossed his face. Read the reports. Before she could challenge him, their comm units crackled with an encrypted transmission. Captain Jensen's voice came through, distorted but urgent. Vale, mission parameters updated. Intelligence confirms General Krevos is on site. Repeat. Krevos is commanding the outpost personally. Oriana felt her blood run cold. General Krevos, the Vrexian military genius responsible for the Jakarta massacre, where 5,000 human soldiers had been slaughtered in a single night. His tactical brilliance was matched only by his cruelty. Acknowledged, she responded. Orders, proceed with reconnaissance. Do not engage. Repeat. Do not engage Krevos under any circumstances. When the transmission ended, Oriana noticed Theo had gone completely still. His eyes fixed on some distant point. The tremor in his hand had spread to his arm. Mercer, you still with me? He blinked slowly, then nodded. I know Krevos, he whispered. Everyone knows Krevos, she replied in no. His voice changed, something harder emerging beneath the quiet exterior. I've seen him, up close. Before she could demand clarification, he turned away, busying himself with the maps. But Oriana caught a glimpse of his reflection in the polished metal wall. His eyes had transformed, calculating and cold in a way that felt jarringly familiar. She'd seen that same focused detachment in the eyes of veteran snipers from special operations. We should rest, he suggested, his voice once again soft, unassuming. For hours, then we move. Oriana agreed, but sleep eluded her. She watched as Theo curled into himself, his breathing controlled for genuine sleep. Occasionally, his hands would twitch, fingers positioning themselves as if sighting down the scope of an invisible rifle dot. By morning, her suspicion had crystallized into certainty. Theo Mercer was no mere cartographer. The question was why someone with obvious military training would hide behind such a fouet, and what would happen when they inevitably encountered the monster commanding the Vrexian forces ahead. The shot that echoed on broke with an unnatural crimson hue as Oriana and Theo approached the ridge. Overlooking the Vrexian outpost, the alien structure pulsed with bioluminescent veins, its architecture both beautiful and repulsive like a malignant growth given purpose. Through her tactical scope, Oriana counted 18 sentries, their exoskeletal armor glistening in the early light, more than intelligence suggested. She murmured. Theo lay beside her, his body unnaturally still. They're expecting someone, us. No, his voice had changed, stripped of its hesitation. Someone important. Look at the landing pad configuration. Oriana shifted her scope. The central platform had been cleared, surrounded by a ceremonial guard. Formation rarely used except for high command, she breathed. They're expecting a visit from their leadership. Theo nodded once. We need to relocate. This position is too exposed. They retreated to a secondary observation point, nestled within the twisted metal debris of a fallen satellite dish. As they settled in, Oriana noticed Theo extracting something from a hidden compartment in his boot, a small vial containing what appeared to be medication. He swallowed 2 pills dry, then caught her watching. Tremors, he explained simply. Nothing more. Hours passed in vigilant observation. Oriana documented troop movements while Theo sketched the facility's layout with unnerving accuracy, noting details invisible to the untrained eye. His hand moved with surgical precision. The earlier tremor mysteriously absent. The sudden roar of engines shattered the silence. A Vrexian command vessel descended toward the landing pad, its massive form eclipsing the sun. When the hatch opened, Oriana's breath caught in her throat. General Krevos stood framed in the doorway, his massive frame encased in ceremonial battle armor. Even from this distance, the distinctive scar tissue that formed a lattice across his face was visible, a trophy from countless human soldiers who had tried and failed to kill him. That's our cue to leave, Oriana whispered, already beginning to pack her equipment. We've confirmed his presence. Command needs to know immediately. But Theo hadn't moved. His eyes remained fixed on Krevos, something dark and broken bleeding into his expression. Mercer, we're leaving. Now, not yet, he whispered. Before she could respond, the distant crack of an explosion tore through the air. A Vrexian patrol had discovered their previous observation point and triggered the micromines. They'd left as standard procedure. Alarms wailed across the compound as Krevos was rushed inside by his guards. They'll sweep the area, Oriana hissed. We need to move. They barely made it 50 meters before the whine of biodrones filled the air. 3 mechanical insects the size of dogs circled overhead, their sensors locking onto human heat signatures. Oriana fired her pulse rifle, hitting one directly. It spiraled down in a shower of sparks, but the others adjusted their flight patterns, becoming harder targets. Run, she ordered Theo, providing covering fire. They sprinted through the debris field, but the remaining drones kept pace, herding them toward a ravine where a Vrexian ground team would undoubtedly be waiting. When they reached a dead-end, a sheer wall of fused metal and concrete, Oriana knew they were trapped. "Stay behind me," she commanded, positioning herself between Theo and the approaching threat. The first Vrexian soldier appeared at the ravine entrance, then another. Soon 6 towering alien warriors had them cornered, weapons trained on their position. Behind them, a larger figure emerged, General Krevos himself, apparently eager to inspect the human intruders personally. "Commander Oriana Vale," Krevos spoke, in rumbling, accented human language, "your reputation precedes you." His compound eyes shifted to Theo. "And what do we have here? A technician, an analyst?" The general stepped closer, his head tilting with sudden recognition. "No, it cannot be." In that moment, Theo straightened, the facade of nervousness falling away completely. His eyes met Krevos's with cold recognition. "Operation Stillwater," Krevos said, almost reverently. "The ghost sniper. They said you died." "I did," Theo replied, his voice now unrecognizable to Oriana. What happened next occurred in fractions of seconds. Theo dropped to one knee, revealing a collapsed rifle that had been concealed along his spine beneath his jacket. It extended with a series of mechanical clicks, assembled and ready before the Vrexian soldiers could react. One shot, a single, perfect shot that traveled between the guards and pierced Krevos's skull at the exact point where his armor joined his exoskeleton. The general's massive body crumpled, violet blood misting the air. In the stunned silence that followed, Theo turned to Oriana, his eyes hollow. "I'm sorry you had to see this." Fragments of truth chows erupted in the wake of Krevos's death. The Vrexian guards, momentarily stunned by the loss of their commander, recovered with a collective howl of rage. Oriana reacted instantly, hurling a flash grenade into their midst while grabbing Theo's arm. "This way," she shouted, pulling him toward a narrow fissure in the ravine wall barely visible and easily missed. They squeezed through the opening as plasma bolts scorched the rock behind them. The passage widened into an underground tunnel system, remnants of human mining operations before the invasion. For nearly an hour, they navigated the dark labyrinth until the sounds of pursuit faded. When they finally stopped to rest, Oriana rounded on Theo. "Start talking, now." He sat against the tunnel wall, disassembling and cleaning his rifle with mechanical precision. The tremor in his hands had returned, more pronounced than before. 5 years ago, I was Lieutenant Theodore Mercer, call sign Phantom, primary marksman for Special Operations Unit 17. His voice was flat, clinical. "We specialized in high-value target elimination. Operation Stillwater," Oriana said, recalling Krevos's words. Theo nodded. "A classified mission to eliminate the Vrexian High Command during peace negotiations. Command received intelligence suggesting the talks were a ruse to gather Earth's leadership in one location for elimination." His eyes clouded. "I was positioned 2 kilometers away, 8 targets, 8 shots. You killed them all." "No." The word hung between them. "When I looked through my scope, I saw genuine peace delegates, not military commanders. Families, children." His hands stilled. "I refused the order to fire." Oriana's brow furrowed. "But the Jakarta massacre happened 3 days later. Because I didn't take those shots." Self-loathing twisted his features. "My handler reported my insubordination. They replaced me with another sniper who didn't ask questions. The delegates were killed, the peace talks collapsed, and Jakarta paid the price." He looked up at her. 5,000 soldiers died because I hesitated. "And Krevos? He led the Jakarta attack. I've carried those deaths for 5 years." The rifle components clicked back into place under his fingers. "When I learned he was here, I knew I couldn't let him continue. 1 life for 5,000. Oriana processed this revelation, studying the man before her. Not a cartographer with a nervous twitch, but a broken soldier carrying an impossible burden. "What happens now?" she asked. "The moment we report in, they'll know who you are, what you've done." "I don't intend to report in." Theo secured his weapon. "Get the intelligence back to command. I'll create a diversion." "No." Her response surprised them both. "That's not happening." "Commander, you're not useless after all." "Mercer." She allowed a slight smile. "And I don't abandon valuable assets." Over the next 3 days, as they navigated hostile territory toward the extraction point, Oriana watched Theo transform. The tremors diminished when he accepted his true nature. His marksmanship provided cover during ambushes, saving her life with impossible shots that defied physics and probability. In turn, Oriana shared tactical knowledge, teaching him close-quarter combat techniques she'd perfected over years of resistance fighting. They trained during rest periods, their bodies learning to anticipate each other's movements, developing a synchronicity that transcended words. One night, as rain hammered against their shelter in an abandoned transport vehicle, Theo spoke of the medication he took developed to suppress the reflexive calculations. His brain performed constantly, allowing him to appear normal, unremarkable. "The pills dull it," he explained. "Without them, I see everything: trajectories, angles, wind variables all the time. It never stops." "Is that why you became a cartographer?" she asked. "The mathematical precision?" He nodded. "Maps don't bleed." Oriana moved closer hesitantly, touching the scar along his jaw. "Who did this to you?" "My handler, when I refused the order." His eyes met hers. "He said he was marking me as a coward." "He was wrong," she said firmly. "What you did required more courage than following orders blindly." In the dim light, something shifted between them, respect deepening into understanding, perhaps something more. When Oriana's fingers traced the line of his scar again, Theo caught her hand, holding it against his face for a moment before lowering it. "We should rest," he said quietly. "Long day tomorrow." As she settled beside him in the cramped shelter, closer than military protocol would normally allow, Oriana realized how drastically her perception had changed. The man she'd dismissed as useless had saved her life multiple times. The burden she'd resented had become someone she couldn't imagine facing this war without. Before sleep claimed her, she made a decision. Whatever awaited them at the extraction point, she would not let Theo face it alone. Some betrayals deserved redemption, and some soldiers deserved to come home. Beyond the crosshairs extraction point loomed ahead a clearing once home to a hydroelectric dam, now reduced to concrete remnants jutting from a dry riverbed. Oriana and Theo approached cautiously, the weight of Krevos's death and their shared days of survival hanging between them. "Command expects a routine recon report," Oriana said, checking her communication device. "They don't know about Krevos yet." Theo scanned the horizon, his enhanced perception noting details invisible to others. The slight disturbance of dust, indicating a perimeter had been established. The faint reflection of observation equipment in the distance. "They've secured the area," he confirmed. "But something feels wrong." Oriana had learned to trust his instincts. "Options: let me go first. If it's a trap, better they take me." She caught his arm. "We go together." "That's an order, Lieutenant." The ghost of a smile crossed his face at the use of his former rank. They moved forward in perfect tandem, covering each other's blind spots with practiced ease. Captain Jensen emerged from behind a concrete slab, flanked by 4 soldiers Oriana didn't recognize. Their unmarked tactical gear and turgid postures triggered immediate suspicion. "Commander Vale," Jensen called. "Successful mission?" "Intelligence gathered as ordered," she replied carefully, noting how Jensen's eyes fixated on Theo. "And your assistant was helpful?" Theo stood straighter. "Captain." Jensen's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Quite the miracle, finding you both alive after the explosion we detected. The rescue team found several dead Vrexian soldiers, and evidence of a high-caliber projectile weapon." He stepped closer, curious, since neither of you were issued such equipment. Oriana felt Theo tense beside her. "We salvaged what we needed to survive." "Of course." Jensen nodded to his men, who spread out in a containment formation. "And the intelligence regarding General Krevos confirmed his presence at the outpost." Oriana answered truthfully. Just his presence. Jensen's tone sharpened. Nothing more. To report. The air between them crystallized with unspoken knowledge. Jensen knew, somehow. He already knew about Krevos's death. Sir, Oriana began. I recommend immediate debriefing at headquarters. The intelligence we've gathered, that won't be necessary, Commander. Jensen's hand moved toward his sidearm. You see, Lieutenant Mercer has been a person of interest since his departure from Special Operations. His reappearance, coinciding with Krevos's assassination, raises concerns about his loyalty. Assassination? Oriana feigned surprise. Don't insult my intelligence, Commander. Jensen signaled his men. Mercer is to be detained for questioning regarding his actions during Operation Stillwater and subsequent unauthorized execution of a high-value intelligence target. Understanding dawned with sickening clarity. They had never wanted Krevos dead, they had wanted him captured for intelligence. Theo's act of redemption was, in official eyes, a catastrophic breach of protocol. The war effort required Krevos alive. Jensen continued. His death has cost us critical intelligence. His death saved lives. Theo countered quietly. He was planning another Jakarta. That wasn't your call to make. No, Oriana interrupted. Stepping between them, it was mine. I gave the order. Jensen's eyebrows rose. You expect me to believe that? Check my mission log. I assessed Krevos as an imminent threat to resistance operations and authorized lethal force. She held Jensen's gaze without wavering. Lieutenant Mercer acted under my direct command. Theo stared at her, stunned by the lie that could end her career or worse. A convenient story. Jensen said, but Special Operations has been tracking Mercer since his disappearance. We know about his condition, his obsession with Krevos. His psychological evaluation suggests his psychological evaluation is irrelevant. Oriana cut in. What matters is that we eliminated a monster responsible for thousands of deaths and gathered critical intelligence on Vrexian operations. She handed Jensen her data drive, including the location of their central command hub. Jensen weighed the drive in his palm, calculation evident in his expression. This information is verified personally by both of us. A long silence followed, broken only by the wind whistling through the dam ruins. Finally, Jensen pocketed the drive. You'll both report to headquarters for full debriefing. He decided. The Resistance Council will determine what happens next. As Jensen's team escorted them to the waiting transport, Theo leaned close to Oriana. Why would you do that? Risk everything for me. She met his eyes, no longer seeing the burden she'd once resented but the partner who'd shown her a different kind of strength. Because you were never useless, and because some things are worth the risk. 3 months later, after hearings and debriefings that tested both their resolves, Oriana found Theo on the observation deck of the Resistance headquarters. He stood watching the sunset, his hands steady as they rested on the railing. Orders came through, she said. Joining him, they're forming a new special reconnaissance unit. Surgical strikes against Vrexian leadership, and they want the ghost sniper. He concluded. They want us both, as a team. She turned to face him. I told them I wouldn't do it without you. Theo studied her face, finding no trace of the dismissive commander who had once called him useless. In her place stood a woman who had seen him at his worst and chosen to stand beside him anyway. I stopped taking the medication, he admitted. The tremors, the calculations, they're part of who I am. I know. She placed her hand over his on the railing. I never wanted you to be anyone else. As the last light faded from the sky, Theo Mercer made peace with the crosshairs that had defined his existence. He had found something, beyond the scope of his rifle, something worth fighting for that didn't require a perfect shot. Together, then, he said, turning his hand to intertwine his fingers with hers. Oriana smiled. Together, in a world torn apart by alien invasion, they had found an unexpected truth, that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from perfection, but from embracing the broken pieces and building something new from the fragments.